Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for anyone who uses their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a journalist, copywriter and content producer, and I also run the show at Rachel's List, which is a jobs board, blog, toolkit and Facebook community for Australian creatives like us. Today, my co-host Lynn Testoni joins me from somewhere deep in the Hunter Valley for a very special episode. Lynn, don't you just love Zoom and the ability for us to record no matter where the heck we are?
I do love it. It's amazing. Technology is so wonderful. It's our friend, really. So hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content producer, and we have a great episode today. And it was a topic suggested by a regular listener. Thanks, Diana. We're talking to John Espirian. He's a LinkedIn legend, and he's going to talk about how to get set up on LinkedIn and find work if you're a journalist who's been recently laid off, or maybe a content writer wondering how to make the most of the platform.
Yes, I actually discovered John on LinkedIn many moons ago via Lindy Alexander's blog. And apart from you being one of the most friendly blokes I've ever met on LinkedIn, John is also relentlessly helpful, as his LinkedIn bio states. He shares just really amazing tips and tricks for making the most out of LinkedIn. So he's a really great person to follow. And in his day job, John is a technical copywriter for B2B websites and the author of Content DNA. And he's definitely not a douche canoe. Are you, John?
Well, I try not to be. Thank you for, first of all, introducing me as a LinkedIn legend. One of my friends keeps saying that, which is really kind of her, but the term I always use is LinkedIn nerd, because I'm just that inveterate kind of poker and fiddler and experimenter, and I love finding out how stuff works. So that's me, yeah. And douche canoe is just a term that I've latched onto, and I mention it in my book. It's that person that I desperately want to avoid trying to serve in my business, and so I've just come up with a silly label for that person. Look for the red flags, look for the douche canoe, and avoid at all costs.
But it's also
trying my best.
But like you say, it's a great talking point, isn't it, for someone to approach you and say, what is that? Or, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the things I tell people. I mean, we're probably going to dig into this during this interview, is that, God, so many headlines are really, really boring. Like, you know, they're just job title at company. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Not me.
Yes.
You need, you know, the whole secret of LinkedIn for me is starting more conversations. And so if you've got something to hook onto, like a little bit of intrigue in your headline, so I put not a douche canoe in my headline. Some people kind of intuitively understand what I'm getting at. Other people go, what the hell is that? It's just a way of starting a chat with you. That kind of thing leads to business if you stick at it for long enough. It might sound silly, but actually the more hooks like that you can put into your content, the more memorable you'll be, the more interesting you'll be. You know, it's good stuff. It's stuff to think about for your own business. What interesting angles can you put on that will make people go, oh, that's not just another content writer, that's the so-and-so. I'm going to remember them. I'm going to talk to them.
But not a douche canoe.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
I totally agree. You've got to find something that sets you apart on LinkedIn for sure, because there is so many cookie cutter profiles out there. But John, you are where are you based? You're in North Wales, South Wales?
I'm in South Wales, yeah. So just over the border from England, about 20 minutes away from Bristol, which is the nearest big city. So yeah, I work from home. I've been doing that for just over 10 years now. So the whole kind of COVID situation of, you know, everyone's got to use Zoom and everyone's got to work remotely, I kind of was already doing that for a long time anyway. So I had very little kind of no adjustment in truth. But yeah, it's great. It's meant that I can have seen my daughter grow up in person rather than being slaving at a desk somewhere else. So it's been excellent for me.
Yeah, it's a sign that freelancers rule the world, or starting to. Yeah, I've actually been to Wales, but I couldn't tell you exactly where I've been. I was racking my brains trying to remember the names, and I can't remember, but it was some of the most beautiful country I ever saw. So I lived in the UK for a number of years, and it's just beautiful there. So very nice little part of the world. You're lucky to live there.
We're jealous.
Well, I've never been to your country, but that's the one country, if I were to get a chance to visit anywhere, it would be Australia, but it's a 13-hour flight or something. It's a big old trip, but yeah,
24.
24. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right. I've misjudged that a bit. Yeah, it's a big trip, isn't it? But somewhere I'd really like to visit.
Something for the bucket
But
list.
you are a big fan of LinkedIn. I imagine you know how to use it. How long have you been on LinkedIn and what do you love about it?
Well, I set up an account in 2008, but I was bullied into that and I didn't do anything with the platform for
Mm.
years and years. And it's only when social media just returned zero results for me in sort
Yeah.
of the middle of the 2010s. And I was thinking, oh, none of this is working. The only way it's going to work is if I go narrow and deep rather than broad and shallow, which is what I'd been trying. I tried Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, wasn't getting any results. No surprise, because I was just spending a bit of
Yes.
time everywhere. And I thought, well, I work in B2B. Where's the place where I'm most likely to find my customers? Duh. LinkedIn. So I decided I was going to put pretty much all of my eggs in that basket in terms of social media. And so just after Microsoft bought LinkedIn, which was at the end of 2016, I said, right, this is the time. I went deep. So from the start of 2017, so we're about 3.5 years on from then. And I've established myself as, first of all, this person with this relentlessly helpful brand, but also something of a LinkedIn expert because I'm a natural explainer. And I can't explain what I do for clients because so much of it is done under NDA. I can't really tell you the mechanics of what I do for lots of different people. But what I
Yeah.
can do is say, here's how LinkedIn works. And that is evidence of my ability to convey information clearly. And if I can do that, then maybe I can explain how your remote control works or whatever business you're in. So that's the kind of subliminal message there. But I do like LinkedIn because I think the quality of discussion there is much better than what you see on Facebook and on Twitter, which often, if you see a popular
Yeah.
thing on Facebook or Twitter, don't look at the comments because they'll probably descend into something quite
Oh,
horrible. Whereas on LinkedIn, it tends to be, and obviously there are idiots everywhere, but it tends to be much more enriching, engaging, interesting, educational, and that's my jam. That's my kind of thing. So I've just made fantastic friendships there. I've got better business leads through LinkedIn than anywhere else, and my testing has shown that a client who comes to me from LinkedIn will pay me 30% more than a client who comes to me through Google. So
Wow.
although I've always been
wow.
optimizing to get my website, my blog found on Google, I want to be in that number one spot. But the people who find me through LinkedIn tend to read my posts, get to know a bit of my personality, see me on video maybe, and then get in touch. And then we have a chat. And those people are more likely to be fans. They're more likely to want to pay more, stick around longer. So it's a really, really good source of leads. And I would say about 60 to 70% of my business is now coming through LinkedIn.
Wow. I have to say, I actually really agree with that about you get more lucrative clients on LinkedIn, because a couple of people who've approached me on LinkedIn have been sort of high level banks and, insurance companies, and they pay, decent money. Whereas people who come via my website are the ones that are more the tire kickers, I suppose. So yeah, it's definitely great for finding good clients. But I actually watched a webinar that you did with, was it Joe Glover a little while
Yeah,
ago?
for the marketing meetup. That's right. I did a mini version of my How Not to Be a LinkedIn Loser course. And
That was just
just
fantastic. So that's an entire course that people can do with you?
yeah, it's a video-based course, and I've got some bonus content and stuff in there. But I kind of did a whistle-stop mini version of that for Joe, and pretty much my LinkedIn melted after that because I had loads of people getting in touch and
Really?
saying this was really good, this was really
Yeah.
useful. Yeah, it's just all of the tips that I give people about thinking tactically, strategically about the things that you should and shouldn't do, and also getting your profile right and getting your content right. That's what it's all about for me. There are so many different things on LinkedIn that you can know about, many of which I don't touch at all. So I don't touch things like Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Learning and LinkedIn Elevate and some of these things that other people have never heard of. LinkedIn is a really big thing. What I
Yeah.
specialize in is making your profile really clear and compelling and engaging, which is
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of copywriters do these days, and also just getting the content right, structuring your content in a way that is optimized for engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I really focus on. But the kind of caveat for all of that is that this stuff takes time to work. I found when I I put myself into LinkedIn really deep in 2017. Nothing happened for the first 9 months, and I was making all of the right moves. I know in hindsight, I was doing all of the right things, but nothing happened. I wasn't getting likes, I wasn't getting comments, I wasn't getting leads. And it's only because I studied content marketing and seen all of these examples of people who, the kind of Justin Bieber thing. He's just playing his guitar on YouTube and no one's watching. And eventually he's the world's biggest pop star. But because you just got to put the hard yards in. So I've done that, and I'm getting the engagement now. And what I find is a lot of people
But
come
it
to
took
me
a
and say,
while, did it?
well, nothing happened for 9 months. I mean, that's a long
Yeah.
time to be putting a lot of effort in, right? So we're 3.5 years
Yeah.
down the track now, and it is happening now. But what I get is people now coming to me and saying, right, well, how can I get those levels of engagement? And I can tell them the technical specifics of what I do, and I share pretty much everything I know. But really, what I want to say is, here's my guide. Let's have a chat in 2 or 3 years' time, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to hear that message because
They
they
want
just think that
instant results.
they want to lift the dumbbells today and have the big biceps tomorrow. It's not. That's not going to work, right? You've got to stick at it if you're going to be good at the piano, sculpt your body, whatever you're going to do. You've got to practice over a sustained period to become, that person who gets known in their space. And that's what a lot of people don't have the stomach for. And it's often why businesses just revert back to paying for ads. But the point I make in my book is that I think that's dangerous practice, because we're moving into a society where people are becoming more and more immune to ads, and we're moving into a Netflix culture where people pay for a subscription to something so that they can avoid ads. It's harder and harder to see ads. We're getting more tuned to pop-ups. We've got pop-up blockers installed. Even if the ad is appearing on the screen, we kind of subliminally know that bit of the screen is for ads. It's not going to work, just the young kids who are using the internet now are just going to blot all of that stuff out. So you've got to do it organically and by engaging people, and that comes through really good content. So there's just no substitute for that over a sustained period, so that people get to know you and buy into you.
I have to say though, whenever I'm on LinkedIn, I see you on there with a new post, and I have wondered how long you spend on there. I mean, how big is it? How many hours would you put in a month to get the results that you do, or a week even, or a day?
I'm usually on there for a couple of hours a day, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but the payoff for that is I never have to place ads. I get higher paying clients, and it's actually, for me as a content creator, it's an enjoyable thing to do. It's a way of sharpening my blade. So if you're a content writer and you're not publicly creating content, then what you're doing is, okay, you're saving the good stuff for the private clients, but the more you create in public, the sharper your blade is going to be. You're going to know what people respond to, what they don't respond to, what turns of phrase get people really interested. And that's the kind of thing that you can implement then for a client in an email marketing campaign or in a white paper you write for them. You go, right, this has worked for me. I can make this work for a client. It's a way of continuing your own professional development. For content writers especially, I think it's really important to maintain a blog, put social media content out. And I've found that I've been speaking to people recently, because one of the things I'm planning to do is a kind of content tactician thing, where I'll just review your ongoing content and tell you where maybe you're going wrong. That's not aimed at content writers, because content writers ought to know this stuff. But some of those people come back to me and say, well, I manage social media profiles for clients, or I do create some content for clients, but I just always feel a bit nervous about doing it myself, or I'm always too busy to do it myself. And those people have got a bit of risk about them, because they will struggle to be remembered, right, for something in the marketplace if they're not showing up. I know it's a hard message to sell. We've all got busy lives. There's always something else to do, isn't there? But the big thing I found from 10 years of being in business is that when I stopped my marketing, which was 2015, I was just too busy, right? I stopped my marketing. And in 2016, the year after, I had my worst financial year ever, because I made
You've always got to be marketing.
That's it. And I said to myself then, I am going to spend at least 20% of my time marketing my services from now on, regardless of how busy I am. I will not take anything for granted, and I have faithfully stuck to that, and it's paying dividends now. So that's my rallying call to anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking, oh yeah, but I'm just too busy with client work, so I couldn't possibly put stuff out on LinkedIn. Beware, because eventually that well will run dry. So spend more time optimizing your profile, spend some time committing to some content on a regular basis, and that's the way to be, what I say in the book, noticed, remembered, and preferred. You want to be that person of choice in your industry, and you can't do that if you stay silent. You really, really need to show up.
Yeah. It's interesting. You've been on LinkedIn for so long, you've made all the mistakes, and now you're just, going great guns. So what do you think are the mistakes that you see content writers, copywriters, journalists making on LinkedIn?
Well, one of the things is just not showing up regularly enough. So we've already gone over that. Another thing is the sea of sameness problem that we have. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, right? I've been approached recently to go and contribute to webinars and private mastermind groups and so forth. And the reason I've been approached is because I'm a copywriter who specializes in LinkedIn. They don't want a
Yep.
copywriter who specializes in social media. What they're telling me is, we've already got an Instagram expert lined up. We've already got a Pinterest expert. We need a LinkedIn expert. Now, if I was pitching myself as social media guy, that's not enough. It's not going to be memorable. Everyone does a bit of
Yep.
social media, but because I've got a specialism, that really makes a difference. And it's the same when you're looking for a job. If you've got those special skills that you can bring out, then you really need to.
And
Because
that's what you have to have in your profile. Is that what you're saying? That
yeah,
when you do
absolutely.
your profile, pull out those special skills and that makes you memorable?
Yes, you've got to remember that LinkedIn profiles are keyword optimized, right? So if you put a keyword term in your headline and in your about statement, okay, and in the featured skills that you've got further down in your LinkedIn profile, the top 3 skills are
Yep.
always listed. Those things, all things being equal, will help you be found in searches. So if someone is looking for a specific skill, truthfully, no one's going to search for a generalist. They want to look for specifics. So be as specific as you can. And also, I say in about statements, which is like the second most important bit of text on your LinkedIn profile, nothing trumps the headline, obviously, because that's the piece of text that follows you around all over LinkedIn. Wherever you are, your headline is visible. But the about statement can be 2,600 characters now. So it was recently increased from 2,000. Fill that and make it really clear what the value proposition is in the first couple of lines, because only the first couple of lines are shown by default, and then you've got to click to see the rest. So in that opening bit, you want a really punchy statement that says what you do, what value it provides, for whom, and how to get in touch. And if you can get those things in the first couple of lines, that might be enough to engage people enough to read the rest. And when they do read the rest, because of the kind of B2B people I speak to, it's really good if you can focus on what kind of transformation you can bring and what kind of specific results you can offer. So always think, and content writers already know this, so I'm preaching to the converted, I'm sure, but what you really want to do is dial into people's problems, present the sunny uplands, the place that they want to go to, and then say, I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to take you there, and here's how we're going to do it. Get in touch. So you present the problem and you present a better future, and you are the person sitting in the middle that is going to offer them that. So present it in terms of a problem solver. And if you can put specific results in there, generated an extra 1 million hits on so-and-so website, for example, that kind of specifics is really good. But it comes back to knowing your reader. Is your reader going to be really analytical? Do they just want a warm and fuzzy feeling? What is their motivation? Why are they there? So if you can understand that, then you can speak to whatever their inner fears are or whatever their deepest desires are, and get them over the line that way. So people just don't spend enough time, I think, optimizing their headline and profile. One of the most important things is to look for ways to start a conversation. Right, that is my number one tip for getting more business on LinkedIn. This is true for job seekers as much as it is for people running their own businesses, I think, is to find ways to start conversations. So I recommend doing that through your headline, right? So the intrigue bit that's at the end, the douche canoe that I mentioned earlier. On my profile, in my about statement, I've got a secret word in there. So if you've read my profile and you've come across this secret word, you might want to just mention that in an invitation to me. We've got a chance to start a conversation, and I can say, well, thank you for actually reading my profile. It makes such a nice change. When I connect with people also, if I've got into a chat with them, I will send them a video intro, just giving them a little
Yes, you sent me
look at
one. I loved it.
Yeah, it's 30 seconds of me being animated, saying hello, not trying to sell to you, not trying to sleaze on you or anything else. And it's a way of me being memorable. So these are all conversation starters and memory aids for the future, because people connect with a lot of people, right? So it's a really important thing to try and add more of that to your process. In terms of content, I say in my book that until you've defined what your personal brand values are, and this can take a little bit of time, I say try and focus on content that hits one of 5 main areas in a framework that I call CHAIR, and that stands for challenging, helpful, amusing, interesting, and relevant. So CHAIR is the acronym. Okay, so you either try and divide opinion, you try and help people, you try and make people laugh a little bit, you try and tell them an interesting fact, and most of all, you try and stay as relevant as you can. So that can either be talking about your industry or the kind of lifestyle that goes around things in your industry. And if you can create content like that, you will get the most powerful thing on LinkedIn for organic reach, which is comments. Okay, so forget likes and shares, they're of limited value. Comments are what drives the algorithm to get your stuff seen more. So if you can ask a question, or if you can divide the room, or if you can share a tip that people go, well, I never knew about that. Let's thank you. Let's tag other people into this. That kind of stuff accelerates your visibility of your content, and therefore you'll attract the lurkers, and the lurkers will make up well over 90% of the LinkedIn user community. And you think, well, they're not engaging directly. Are they of any value? Yes, they are, because they're the ones who turn into customers. So the more you can get your content seen, the greater potential you have of appealing to those lurkers, and it's those lurkers who ultimately get in touch with you. And I've lost count of the number of times someone will get in touch and they'll say, I've been following you for 18 months and now I actually want you to rewrite my website. Fantastic. That's what I want. But I didn't have a clue that they existed, and yet I was still doing this stuff because I know it's going to pay off, and it does pay off when they get in touch.
I know on your whistle stop tour of your course, the Joe Glover webinar, you mentioned that a lot of people automate everything that goes onto LinkedIn, and then they don't stick around to engage when people do like something that they've posted. So I'm guessing that's another big mistake that you can make, is not actually being around and just thinking by doing the bare minimum, you're doing enough.
Yes, that's true. Things have been made slightly easier from around the middle of May onwards, in that LinkedIn has changed its algorithm so that it doesn't any longer suppress the reach of posts containing external links. Now, that is quite a big change, and it's good news for content creators, because if you've created something that's on YouTube that you want to share, or if you've created something that's on your blog that you want to share directly, you'll be able to do that without being penalized. How long for? I can't tell you, but that has changed, because I was testing this.
Yes, because they used to always favor something that was published on LinkedIn as their number one thing, but they're actually favoring external ones. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much a case of favoring it, but it's a case of not penalizing it, and that's good news for content creators who have information stored on other resources on the web. I don't know how long it'll stay like that for, but it was always the case that if you did that before, your posts would go nowhere, and therefore using a scheduling tool to share posts from your blog, through things like Buffer and Hootsuite, that wouldn't really work. But even though that change has been made, LinkedIn does do it does do sampling of how popular your post is in the early stages after publication. So when you post something, only a small proportion of your followers will see that content, and LinkedIn will judge from that how popular this thing is likely to be, and therefore judge what the amplification potential of it ought to be. So I know from my
Oh, I
tests that if
see.
I get between 500 and 600 views within the first hour of my post going
Yeah.
live, that post will end up getting 5,000 plus views. I know that almost for certain now.
Because LinkedIn recognizes it, says this is a post that's got value to the audience, and then it
Yeah, well,
goes
they'll
out
go, oh,
to a
right, hang on,
wider
people are
audience.
spending time on this, people are commenting on this, people are liking this, there's probably something good there. The downside of that is people try and play the algorithm by getting all of their friends together in an engagement pod and saying, right, the moment that we post this, everyone else lumps on. Thing is, LinkedIn's getting smarter all the time, and if it sees the same group of people like immediately going, great post, then that's a red flag for them, because they're saying, well, how come these group of people is responding so quickly, and that could actually be detrimental to you. But yeah, engagement in the first hour is a good indicator of overall success, and therefore when you post something, it's a good idea to stick around and foster the campfire, if you like. Encourage people to comment, reply to people who do, just generally be around to generate the start of the conversation, rather than just going, post, right, I'm off now, good luck, and let's hope it wins. So that does take some time. It's also worth remembering that what I call the half-life of a post is really long on LinkedIn. So in other words, the amount of time that a post stays in the air, it is really long on LinkedIn versus Twitter, which might be a few minutes and then it's just gone. But on LinkedIn, it could easily be a day or two, right? So that means you don't need to post very much. And I recommend new people post maybe only once or twice a week to start with the view of getting up to maybe 5 posts a week. It's not a lot that you need to put out. And these are short form posts, up to 1,300 characters. I'm not asking anyone to create War and Peace. But because the engagement potential is quite long for LinkedIn, you can create one post, maybe wait another couple of days before doing the next one. And LinkedIn has got this thing where it will not promote 2 posts of yours at the same time to the same extent. So it's almost like planting things too close together. One of them will get the sunlight and the other thing will be edged out a little bit. So you want to give everything a bit of room to breathe. And so if you can leave a couple of days between posts, actually you'll probably find that you get more engagement per post, and you'll end up doing less work as a result of it. So it's a good thing not to be too post heavy. And I follow some people they'll post 100 things in a week, and I won't have seen a single one of them. And I was like, well, this is pointless. Only the massive influencers can get away with doing that, because they know that people just lap up everything they do. And so the algorithm will show you that kind of stuff from Richard Branson and whatever. But the average business owner, that's never going to work for them.
And you've just released a book, John.
I have.
Tell us a bit about it. Rachel's working her way through it on the Kindle, aren't you, Rach?
Well, no, actually, full disclosure, I bought the book, but I'm still working through Jennifer Goforth Gregory's book. So sorry, John, yours came after hers.
Okay, that's okay.
It's in the line.
That's
but
cool.
tell us,
yes.
what to expect, I suppose, for
So this came about because of the copywriting consultations I do with people. I always end up saying the same thing, so I thought I'd codify it into a book. And I've been writing now for 10 years independently, so it felt like it was about time that I put the big boy pants on and actually wrote a book, right? So content DNA is the idea of building the right shape for not only your content, but actually the way your business operates. Everything that you put out should be in service of a small handful of brand values, with one sort of foundational item underneath it to tie it all together. For me, it's this idea of being relentlessly helpful, which I came about by accident. But I thought, well, I got lucky with this thing, and I started saying it and people started echoing it back to me, almost like call and response, Freddie Mercury style. You say something, the audience repeats it back to you. It's a great feeling. It makes you more memorable.
Well, I have to say that your little line of being the relentlessly helpful is quite memorable back to your
Uh-oh.
point. And it's a really nice thing to know about somebody, that you're very helpful. It's
Yeah, well,
lovely.
it is, but everyone has got their own thing, right? So you need to do some kind of,
Yeah.
some of the tips in the book are about doing introspection, about what really matters to you in life and in business. What do your best customers, what kind of language do they use about the way that you serve them? What do your best friends say about you? There's a bit in the book about you can't read the label of the jar that you're in. So you need some external perspective on what it is that
Yep.
what purpose you have in this world, how other people see you, and to try and reflect that in a short, snappy tagline. So for me, it's the relentlessly helpful technical copywriter and LinkedIn nerd. That's enough.
Yes.
and to get to that point, but then to be kind of pretty merciless about making sure that those brand values are represented in every single thing that you do. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that you repeat that message over and over again and put it everywhere. It's in your website copy, it's in your invoices, it's in your email signature, it's in the way that you answer the phone, it's in the way that you hire your staff. It's actually everything, right? It
Yeah.
is your brand. It's not just visuals, it's everything. And if you can do that and be willing enough to stick at it for the long term, then you'll eventually make the right impression on people and be the go-to person in your industry. So this is aimed at small business owners who don't really understand personal branding or marketing or content, and it tries to tie together all of these ideas so that they can fashion the right shape for them. So that's why I've written that. It's only been out for a couple of months, but it's doing pretty well. The reviews have been fantastic. It's my go-to piece of marketing now to say, look, I actually know a bit here. I've put enough of this to
Here's a book I prepared
I've
earlier.
written a book. Here you
Here's
go.
one I
Take a
prepared
look.
earlier. I think
Yeah.
it'll be great, especially we've got a lot of journalists who'll be listening today. You've probably seen what's happening in Australia, or is happening in media all over the world, really. But in Australia, it's been particularly dire this year. And I think that a lot of the journalists that come to Rachel's list, particularly, a lot of them aren't even on LinkedIn or don't have any kind of online presence, but they're suddenly faced with having to reinvent themselves and find work. Perhaps they're jumping into freelancing and need to find clients. I mean, what would be your tips for people like that who are perhaps going from an in-house print role to freelancing as content writers or, copywriters and
Yeah.
going on to LinkedIn? I mean, what would be your advice for them?
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to start with a good headline and about statement so that you have a presence. There are a couple of specific LinkedIn things that you can do, like, for example, using the open to new opportunities hashtag and using LinkedIn's own new open to work hashtag. And that one actually comes with an ability to put an overlay on your profile photo, a little kind of green thing. I don't know if you've seen this, but it signals to
Yeah.
recruiters, and
It's
you
quite
don't have to.
recent, isn't it?
It is very recent. I think it's only about a week old, but this is something that you can show either to everyone or only to recruiters, because you might feel a bit self-conscious to show the world that actually you're looking for work, right? but
Yeah.
but you can say show this only to recruiters, and
Yep.
then when they're sorting their search results, they can see that you're available, and therefore might be more likely to get in touch with you. LinkedIn also has a providing services panel that not everyone has got, but if you have got that, if you can turn that on in your profile, then you can again have an extra space where you can make clear what your key skills and services are. So if you put
Yeah.
2 or 3 things in there, again, a recruiter will go, oh, right, they do copywriting, or they do logo design, or right, they do financial planning. Brilliant. It's a really clear and simple way for them to see and sift quickly through candidates. Other things you can do if you do get onto LinkedIn and you haven't been there before, well, try and get to the 500 connections mark as quickly as you can without letting spammers into your network, obviously, because once you get to 500, people can't actually see any more than that. It'll just say 500 plus. Whereas if you've got 10 connections, people can see he's got 10 connections. He's probably not really serious on here. So do try and build that network. And if you can build it through your friends and past work colleagues, try to ask them for recommendations. Now, I say in the LinkedIn Loser course that there is a way of getting your own recommendation URL. And if you do that, you can put that in your email signature, or you can put that in your invoices and say, if you liked working with me, here's where to leave a review. And that automatically jumps them to the panel where they can just type something in and leave you a review. So it's a frictionless way of getting more reviews. And all things being equal, someone with 5 recommendations has no chance of outranking someone with 50. So if you've got past clients, work colleagues, boss, just anyone, lean on them as much as possible and try and get them to review. And finally, just pay attention to the silent jobs market. Okay, so everyone's looking at the active jobs market. What jobs are going with company X? But just lean on the network that you've got and let them know that you're available, because they might either be in a hiring position or have a good relationship with their boss who is, or they might know another company who needs a content creator or whatever. And if you don't ask, you're not going to get. You don't need to be salesy about it, but you just inform people that you're available, and good things can happen. So there are a few things that you can do on LinkedIn, but none of this will be possible unless you've actually built a profile in the first instance and made clear in some ways that you have skills in a certain area and that you're available to be hired.
Do you think it can be quite a powerful platform when you're starting out in finding work, like finding those clients? Should you have a premium account in order to track down more companies that you might want to work with? Should you send letters of introduction? I mean, how do you get work on there? Is it mainly just come to you now, I guess?
Yeah, people come to me, everything's inbound with me, but I've never had a LinkedIn premium account and it hasn't affected me one bit.
That's
You can
interesting.
do lots of good searches for free. LinkedIn Premium does let you search deeper and longer, but if it's quite a lot of money per month to do that, to be honest with you. So I would suggest that if you want to give it a whirl, take the trial. There's no harm in that, but I've never needed it. And I've got tips on my website about searching for jobs, and it's pretty simple stuff. If you think about who it is that would be making the decision. So let's say for me, I'd be targeting people like Chief Technical Officer, tie it to a location. So I'm saying I'm looking for Chief Technical Officers. I'm looking for them in London. Do a search, build your shortlist, and then look for the people who are most active, because the people who are already posting stuff, that's a perfect opportunity for you to go and follow them and to engage with their content first. It's something that people never seem to do. They'll just jump straight to, oh, I want to work with that guy, let's connect. He doesn't know you from Adam. But if you start following him and for 2 weeks you're just commenting religiously on everything he posts, when you eventually move to try and connect with him, he's going to go, yeah, John's a good bloke. Definitely. It'll be a way for you to start a conversation. I love that document post you did last week, XYZ. That guy's obviously going to be much more familiar with you and happy to chat with you. And the chatting is everything. You get talking to someone, you get talking to the right person, they're going to promote you ahead of someone who possibly is better qualified but never says anything. So put in that effort to build your shortlist, follow the people, engage with their content, and then a week or 2 later, move towards trying to connect with them. That's my best approach.
I love that. The chatting is everything.
Yes. It's always about relationships, isn't it, Rachel? That's what we
Relationship marketing.
hear
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Well, it is. In the old days, it used to be, let's have a round of golf together. This is the new round of golf. This is the let's talk. Let's spend some time together. And at that point, maybe you don't have the best CV, but if you're interested in the other person, that counts for a lot. Don't treat people like numbers. Just get to know them, find out what's interesting to them, find some commonality. That's why it helps to put a bit of personality in your profile, because then other people will do the same back to you. So, I mentioned my love of football in my profile. So that means that football fans will have something to latch on to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So think about doing that for others, but also look for that in their profile. So read their profiles and see, oh yeah, look, he's a snowboarder. I went snowboarding. Let's talk about that. Just start the chat, and good things will follow.
Oh, John, thank you so, so much for talking to us today and giving us all your LinkedIn wisdom.
I feel quite inspired. I'm going to go back and relook at my LinkedIn profile and
I'm actually really terrified
get it all
that
inspired and get cleverer.
I think John's going to go and read our LinkedIn profiles and go, yeah, they're not doing any of the stuff that I was talking about.
I can send you a critique if you want.
Just give us a few days to tidy it up, and then you can take it out. But yeah, I think we've pretty much mined your brain
to think
for
about,
40
John.
minutes.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Interesting. I've loved it. It's learned so much and it's so inspiring. Thank you. And I think that's probably the end of our show this week. I mean, we'll be thinking about this for ages, and I think all our listeners will be when they're out on their runs or their walks and listening to this. I think they'll be sending lots of messages to us later. So
they'll be trying to take notes
to everyone who's been listening on the run. Yes. Thank you to everyone who's listening. And thank you so much, John, for giving us this time in a busy schedule. We've taken you away from LinkedIn for almost an hour now. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a rating. And also, Rachel, in our show notes, we'll put a link to John and his book, because I'm sure there'll be quite a few people interested in that. And also, you sent me a great list for some of the podcasts you've done. We might put some of those in as well, because I think there's some even more valuable information there.
Yes.
That's
Rachel?
very, very kind of you. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks again, John Espirian. We really, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.